Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Every now and then a story happens where someone will say, Steve, check this out. You did this story before, but someplace else, meaning that something is happening again. And this is one where it's amazing that this could still happen. But Daryl, Suze, Neil, Kent, and David all sent it. This is WTVR reporting, WTVR.com. Feds say Virginia towing company illegally sold service members' cars. And we covered this before, and I think it happened someplace down south, over to the west, maybe Texas, last time, but now it's in Virginia. Federal prosecutors, and by the way, anytime, and again, this is just another one of those pro tips, anytime you find your name in a story that includes the phrase federal prosecutors, you may have made mistakes in your life. Federal prosecutors have filed a lawsuit accusing a Virginia company of illegally taking and selling service member vehicles belonging to service members. The lawsuit filed last week accuses a towing company of Virginia Beach of illegally seizing and selling vehicles belonging to 7 service members, including a SEAL team member, while he was deployed overseas. Now, I would think, shouldn't take a lawyer to tell you this, one of the last people on earth whose car you'd want to take wrongfully would be a member of a SEAL team. Not one of the guys at the bar drinking who claims he is a former SEAL. I'm talking about an actual SEAL team member, because they said this guy here is an actual SEAL team member. And the reason that the SEAL team member wasn't around is that he was deployed overseas. So while he's gone, somebody seizes his car and they sell it at an auction, and they didn't follow the rules. Federal officials said in court documents that the seizures violate the Service Members Civil Relief Act. That's a statute passed by the feds that talks about how people who are serving our country as a service member have got different rules that protect them, and it makes complete sense. So if I illegally park my car this afternoon when I'm out grocery shopping, and my car gets towed, and I don't take care of it, and they notify me and I ignore the notices, that car could get auctioned and sold to pay off the towing and storage fees. And you'd say, okay, but that's what happens when you ignore those notices. If you are deployed overseas and you're a member of a SEAL team, and your car gets seized while you are overseas serving your country, well, chances are that the towing company actually didn't notify you that, by the way, we seized your car. And so there are different rules that apply to the service members. And by the way, people who do towing would know this. And also, as I've mentioned before, all attorneys know this. So that act with respect to towing companies requires them to get a court order before auctioning off a service member's vehicle. So what the implication is, it's still possible. It's not like the towing company gets screwed here. They just have to go one extra step, because traditionally speaking, in many states, a mechanic's lien is what gets placed on a vehicle towed by a towing company if the tow bill's not paid. And so in some states, that happens without court intervention. However, you need a court order if you're planning on auctioning off a service member's vehicle. The law also prohibits towing companies from enforcing storage liens while service members are deployed and for 90 days afterwards. So if you get a car into your impound lot and you want to charge storage on it, if it's a service member's car, you can't do that if they are deployed, like I said, and you can't do it for the 90 days after deployment, because presumably they've got other things more important to take care of. And by the way, if you think it's unfair, well, it's the law, though. And so if you don't follow the law, bad things happen. That's why the feds are involved. Getting back to my original statement about the pro tip. The lawsuit filed by the feds seeks damages for affected service members, a civil penalty, and a court order barring the towing company from auctioning off seized vehicles without court orders. So it sounds like they're actually asking the court to issue an order telling these people to follow the law in the future, which might seem like overkill, but one of the reasons you do that is if the primary statute itself doesn't have enough teeth. You can then say, okay, let's get another injunction here that'll force them to follow the law in the future, and if they fail, then this court can come back and say, you didn't follow my orders as well as you didn't follow the law. According to the lawsuit, 2 vehicles belonging to a SEAL Team 2 member, and both of them were bearing Arizona tags, were towed from a parking lot across from the team headquarters in January. While the towing service asked the Virginia DMV for the vehicle records, it didn't check Arizona, according to the lawsuit. And I've had people tell me, and I'll admit, where I live, there are not a lot of military installations near me. I know where some are in Michigan, but they're not near where I am. So you don't see as many service members, like say in uniform, and you don't see the military vehicles around, not in southeastern Michigan so much. But I know people who've been in the military. I also know people who've lived near military installations, and there are some towns where the military presence is so obvious and so ubiquitous that you know that there are service members out there. And I've also had people tell me that a lot of service members have stickers on their cars indicating, for instance, that they can get on and off of a base. And so that anybody who tows vehicles in that general area knows there's a good chance the vehicle you just towed might be affiliated with a service member. You probably ought to check. So when they towed 2 vehicles with Arizona plates on them across the street from the SEAL team headquarters, they should have checked Arizona, which they did not do, according to the lawsuit. 36 days after towing the vehicles, the towing company filed liens of $970 to cover storage charges for each vehicle. That same day, the company president reported to Virginia DMV that the company enforced the liens by purchasing both vehicles from itself for $500 each. The company never obtained a court order to do so. And so in some states, they can actually take care of the mechanic's lien or whatever you want to call it, but the lien that they get against the vehicle because they towed it and they stored it, and you can then take the vehicle to a public auction and sell it to cover the lien. And if there's any money left over, you give it back to the owner or a lien holder or anything like that. But the point is that you can do that without court intervention. But the fact that they sold the vehicle to themselves does raise a little bit of a flag. It might not be illegal, but it's something that you'd be very, very curious about. Because generally speaking, to sell a vehicle at a public auction, you've got to do it in public, and you've got to advertise the auction. And so if there are any legal newspapers in your area, many times there's newspapers published in a county, like Oakland County's got one, Macomb County's got one. And they publish these newspapers, and I'm not even sure they do them in paper anymore, but I remember a long time ago you could actually get a paper newspaper. And you could open it to the back, there's a classified section, and it would say upcoming auctions. And by the way, you'd also see those in papers like the Free Press and the News. They had a section in the back with classifieds, and there'd be legal notices. And a lot of times the legal notices would say, a vehicle with this VIN is going to be sold at public auction at this location to the highest bidder, period. Or it might say pursuant to a loan or something like that. But it would give the location of the auction, the date of the auction, and the VIN. And that's to put people on notice that this vehicle is about to get sold. It's going to be sold to the highest bidder. So if you do an auction like that and no one shows up, legally, depending on the state, you might be allowed to bid on it yourself. So long as if someone else had shown up, that you would bid against each other as if you were separate bidders. You don't get an advantage because you're the one who's holding the auction. But some states might not allow that. I'm not going to speak to that because auction law actually changes dramatically from state to state. And as you can imagine, there have been auctions in America going way back. Auctions are something that we brought over with us from wherever we came from. And so auctions have been around for a long time. So, and I'm not meaning to disparage the people who are already here. I'm just not sure they conducted auctions. So there you go. So it sounds like this towing company, if in fact they did what they're accused of doing, might be in for a very expensive lesson. And they may have to change their methodology in the future to make sure that the vehicles that they tow and then auction off don't belong to service members, particularly not SEAL team members. I wouldn't want to do that. I don't. Maybe it's just me. But the stories from WTVR.com. Feds say Virginia towing company illegally sold service members' cars. Daryl, Suze, Neil, Kent, and David all sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. He who does not understand your silence will probably not understand your words.